Hot damn! The games industry did good this year.
Hello. So.
You freeze, and your life doesn't flash before you because you're too fucking scared to think. You just freeze and pull a stupid face.
Alrighty, if you were wondering how things went this year in gaming, I gotta tell you, it went phenomenally. Somewhere around the mark of 90 something billion dollars for the year of 2016, and the year's not even over. Can you believe it? Some games topping it off for this year: Pokemon Go, Overwatch, League of Legends, of course. Unfortunately, in these numbers, the new Super Mario Run for mobile has not been equated for just yet. We will see that in 2017. But for now, let's look at how 2016 wrapped up for this year financially in the games industry. And we're talking about the games industry in the sense of digital media and interactive media. So this is everything from mobile games, PC games, console games, VR, everything that you can imagine. This is all rolled into Reetster 14. Kia ora, my brother. How's it going? We are going to have a look at how everything stacked up this year. The financial report is out thanks to SuperData. If you want to get a hold of this information, check out the link below if you are watching on YouTube. If you are on Twitch, I will have a link available later on in the stream tonight, so you can check that out if you are so inclined. There's a lot of reading. There's about 22 pages. It's in a presentation format, so it's pretty easy to read if you want to get into it. But there is some awesome stuff in here, setting trends for the coming years, as well as highlights for this year. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start with looking at mobile gaming, because mobile gaming has been amazing this year. It has topped the charts as far as financial gain is concerned. Pokemon Go being one of the premier titles for this year, which only came out in the middle of the year. Just think about it. Only came out halfway through this year. Peaked in August with a total earning of $203 million. It is just like the game launched with a vengeance earlier this year to quite a lot of fanfare. If you want to know in terms of how much it has generated, it's looking at just under the $1 billion mark for what is less than a 6-month period. Which is absolutely phenomenal in terms of gaming. We've also got a few other top titles. Clash Royale, of course, on mobile, topping out its earning at $197 million in March this year. It's just insane. Like, it blows my mind that mobile games are kind of leading the charge for gaming this year. Of the 90-something billion dollars in revenue, mobile gaming equates for $40.6 billion. It is enormous. It is absolutely flabbergasting to see how well mobile gaming has done this year. There's a few titles in there that I don't even know about, like Monster Strike is in there, which apparently is like a Golden Axe reboot for mobile. I've never even seen it. Apparently it is doing phenomenally well thanks to the Asian market. You've also got the most advertised game in the world, Game of War, sitting in there pretty sweet at just under the $1 billion mark as well for this year. So mobile gaming, it has done great. Mobile MOBAs, of course, have been starting to gain traction, vainglory, setting the pace for mobile MOBAs and doing really freaking well, signing up with Twitch for a lot of their coverage, and looks like they're going to be continuing that for the next year. Mobile Strike, of course, the next heavily advertised game in the world, is just below Game of War at about $900 million, and doing pretty well. So mobile games definitely taking it out this year for how well gaming is doing at the moment, how much revenue is being generated. I, Reapster, could never get into Game of War myself. Those games do not interest me. I'm not a mobile gamer. I'm not a big mobile gamer by any means. It is something that I have dabbled in. I play a little bit of Final Fantasy Exvius, as well as I used to play the Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key on mobile as well. Both games from Square Enix, both very, very similar setup and everything. Fantastic games. I used to love playing them. But they do turn into a money march after a little while, and a lot of these mobile titles do, which is probably why they're doing so well in revenue, because once you get to a certain part of the game where you're completely hooked, and you want to keep going and be the very best, then you got to follow that money march where it may lead. What is really interesting to know, actually, is that free-to-play gaming on the PC is what is actually pushing forward the market and gaining a lot of revenue in PC. PC games coming in second after mobile gaming, somewhere around the $32 billion mark, $34 billion mark, I think they were, for this year. So about $6 billion below the mobile market, but still such a strong market, coming out with huge titles. And when I say free to play, you got to understand free to play includes all kinds of games, including MOBAs, because League of Legends, Dota 2, Heroes of the Storm, these are all free to play games. You can get in, you can play them for free, and it is up to you whether or not you use the microtransactions to push yourself further. But due to the very competitive nature of these games, you're gonna want to spend some money to unlock heroes and all of that kind of thing. Going on the top earners for this year, League of Legends right at the top of the free-to-play market, $1.7 billion. It is a huge game. It has eked out every other contender on the market for this genre and pretty much all other genres. It is just amazing how well League of Legends is still doing. Riot Games pulling in around about $150 million per month with that single title. So they're doing absolutely phenomenally. Of course, coming in at a distant second is Dota 2, pulling in around about 24 million, just under $24 million dollars a month, which is still a massive amount, but only eking out around $0.25 billion or $250 million compared to $1.7 billion on the League of Legends. It is it is insane how much money, how much revenue has been generated. League of Legends, of course, being the top competitive PvP game out there on the market currently. and has been since it pretty much hit the markets about 7 years ago, has been remaining a very strong champion in the genre. You can kind of understand that when you go and tune into things like Twitch TV. League of Legends is always at the top there, with streamers pulling in around 10 to 20,000 viewers for pro gamers. Whenever a tournament comes along, you can be assured there's going to be at least 100,000 people tuning in on Twitch, making a phenomenal amount in revenue, especially for Twitch and their deals with Riot Games. And thank you for Reapster very much for the follow, dude. Much appreciated. I like the enthusiasm. I like it too. I am super stoked. I'm super stoked about these numbers and everything that has come out. This is something that is just amazing to see, and you don't really read a lot about it. You know, there are so many predictions that we can make for the coming year based on how well these games are doing, but you don't realize how well games are doing until you see how much revenue they've pulled in. And while League of Legends is phenomenally popular, you know, you don't realize just how popular it is. Pulling in $1.7 billion this year alone, it has remained at the top for a number of years in terms of revenue. So you can only imagine how much that game has just constantly pulled in. As far as revenue gain, it is mostly down to esports. Esports being the tiny little sector of gaming that it is currently, pulling in less than $1 billion in the year. So esports ventures throughout the year have only brought in a very small amount of money as in compared with the rest of the market. However, they're set to kind of explode over the next year with a few kind of forecasts looking like it is going to increase by another $500 million in revenue over the next 3 to 4 years. And you think about 3 to 4 years as this quite long period, but really esports has only just kind of burst out onto the scene. It's been there for such a long time, and I was such a huge fan of StarCraft 2 pro scene. StarCraft 1, oh my gosh. I used to sit down and watch a lot of StarCraft pro tournaments, had a hell of a lot of fun watching those. However, it was quite niche at the time, and since the eventuation of Justin TV and Twitch TV now, it has become this just enormous boulder of momentum, and it is just picking up speed as it goes. And you can bet that over the next, couple of years, esports started 10 plus years ago. It was a long time ago that the esports scene really started. To say that in 3 or 4 years it is almost going to increase by almost twice as much as it is today is ridiculous. You can be assured that it is only going to get even more intense. And with the announcement, of course, of Activision Blizzard and Overwatch, and announcing the Overwatch Pro League, which is awesome. I can't wait to see what they do with it, because pro gaming has just come in leaps and bounds, and we've got all these fantastic casters that cast pro scene games and everything and do tournaments. However, it's kind of felt like it's been a mishmash of talents and people coming together and trying to put these things together with the backing of big corporations like Valve, like Activision Blizzard, like Riot Games, backing these tournaments. However, now with the announcement of the Overwatch League, this is a huge thing. This is massive, because it completely changes the way that the world views esports. It's not about how us as gamers view esports. It's now about how the world views esports, and you can see it with ESPN dedicating time slots to Heroes of the Storm games and other esports tournaments, CSGO as well, which had a bit of a fiasco this year. Let's face it, the online betting scene went completely freaking AWOL this year, and completely changed the way that esports kind of operates. Lots of publishers have been very careful now as to how they introduce their cash shop items, and are they tradable? Because if it's freely tradable, it can be traded for money, and it can become a betting thing as well. Esports, the only sport-like thing that I get interested in. Same here. I'm not a big sports fan. I've never been a big sports fan, but I have watched StarCraft tournaments, CSGO tournaments, Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone. I tune in to BlizzCon every single year to watch the arena tournaments unfold. I do love watching the competitive gaming scene, but it's just getting bigger and bigger. It's starting to flourish, and it has now become a world stage phenomena. It is no longer the thing that you just watch online because that's what you're interested in. It has taken prime spots on TV channels. It has now developed its own professional leagues. Rules and regulations are being developed. There are pay schemes for pro players so that they don't have to negotiate their own contracts, which they have had to do in the past, which is horrible because you're working with people that typically have the money to enforce very poor contracts on pro gamers, and it's just turning into this awesome, very interesting and vibrant global scene now. And over the next few years, it is just going to become a mainstay, and I am waiting for that moment where I can tune in on my free-to-air TV at 8 o'clock at night and catch up on the latest tournament that's happened, because you can bet your bottom dollar that it is definitely coming to TV, and we're going to see this breaking out into a lot of open world exposure rather than being the niche market that it has been in previous years. But it brings with it all of those other things, like I was talking about, like the gambling systems that people put in. Like you say, I hate them myself. I do not like the whole betting scene that they've got in esports, and I'm quite glad that they brought in regulations and things, and publishers and game providers are now developing their own rules and regulations to go around and prevent that sort of thing. So yeah, big thing to look out for. It has been one of the top grossing revenues for this year in terms of free-to-play games, or in terms of games. Let's just say it. In terms of games, esports has become a really big thing. League of Legends really topping the charts there. And dominating, making it extremely hard for other MOBA style games and competitive games to get in on that scene. Hopefully we'll be able to break that down into other categories. Heroes of the Storm not doing so well, can't see that going massively far. Hearthstone picking up a little bit of traction, but still a little bit kind of small at this stage. Overwatch doing phenomenal at this point. Activision Blizzard done a brilliant job of placing that in the market at the perfect point to introduce a new genre of competitive gaming, which has taken flight, and like I said, with the Overwatch League only set to grow from there, Dota 2 being the second contender in the MOBA scene from League of Legends at this stage. Yes, there was a lot of CSGO earlier this year. There was some on ESPN. I'm not American, I'm a Kiwi. I don't get a lot of these channels, so I don't know what other channels it was on. We get ESPN, so it's the only one that I know that it was on. And I did enjoy watching some CSGO earlier this year. But, you know, it'll be great to see it come across into more mainstream media as well. Going on, look, you know, I could rant and rave about the esports scene over and over because of the way it is just completely blossoming at the moment and becoming just this enormous powerhouse in the gaming scene and in the world. Really, it's just become such a huge thing, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. But we've got to move on. We've got to look at some of the other things that happened this year in gaming in terms of revenue build and everything, because we've got, you know, you've got PlayStation VR, the Oculus Rift, HTC Vive. How the hell has VR stacked up this year? We're also looking at things like premium games, console and PC. If you don't know what premium is versus free to play, basically it's just a paid game. You've got to purchase in order to play. Simple as that. That is your premium. And you know, there's a few other kind of trends and things that we can kind of look at. You guys can't see, I'm looking through this like spreadsheet and everything of the revenue and everything. It blows my mind. I went over it earlier. I was absolutely astonished with some of the things that have happened just from a single year in the games industry or interactive media. And like I said, this will be available on YouTube in a link below. If you're on Twitch, I will make this available in a link as well, so that you can have a look if you're interested in this kind of stuff. Everything VR was awesome. I'm of two minds about that. I mean, I do love VR. I love the concept of VR. I love what they've done with it and the fact that so many big publishers have got into it. I am a little bit upset that Microsoft has kind of abandoned their HoloLens augmented reality headset. That was really kind of a great thing in my mind, that would have pushed the technology. It may not have been the best in its current generation, however, it really would have pushed the trend that, you know, Google Glass kind of started, but in an entertainment sense. That has been picked up. Microsoft HoloLens has been picked up under military conditions. Don't know anything else about that. Don't ask me about it. All I know is that retail market for the HoloLens is pretty much done. They're not interested in bringing it to the retail market, but the military are interested in having a look and seeing what it can do for them. But there are some really kind of semi-interesting things about VR. Obviously, PlayStation VR is the headline in console VR because Microsoft have not brought anything out whatsoever, and PlayStation VR is kind of your headliner. In order to take advantage of the VR, they upgraded the PlayStation 4. You now have the PS4 Pro with 4K and HDR capabilities, and it does a little bit better job of rendering in VR from what I understand. I have had my hands on the HTC Vive. I have yet to get my hands on the Oculus or PSVR, although I would really like to get my hands on those at some stage so I can give a hands-on impression about it. Plasmane, kia ora my friend, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. We are talking all things revenue in the games industry this year. At the moment we're up to VR and how that has gone this year. We've talked about esports becoming such a powerhouse throughout the year and continuing on for the next few years, becoming a huge global phenomena that it already is. Also, some of the top earners like League of Legends powering it completely out of the stadium at $1.7 billion in revenue from this year alone. Mobile games taking up the top spot in revenue at over $40 billion this year. And of course, PC coming in second, not too far behind, around $34 billion revenue this year. But as for VR, there's really not a lot that we can really take away from this year in VR. It has been an experimental stage for VR, where they've kind of been doing a lot of tech demos and things, no really fully fledged content. We are very content sparse as far as VR goes, which is sad because I was really hoping that, that Microsoft's Flight Simulator might make a comeback in the VR scene. I play a bit of Dirt Rally, and I love playing in first-person view, doing rally games, and I was hoping that VR might have that available. Unfortunately, at this stage, not entirely the thing that is happening, which kind of sucks. Am I Peter Jackson's? I wasn't even aware Peter Jackson had a son. Does he have a son? If he does, I am definitely not him. I apologize, that is not me. Batman VR Until Dawn Festival of Blood. Yes, I do like how Until Dawn has been going about the VR scene. Batman VR, I have seen very precious little on it. I have done a little bit of scoping out and watching, of course, a lot of streamers playing it. It looks hilariously fun, and I mean that in the sense that you can just being able to interact and play with Batman gadgets and everything, and the Batmobile is just ridiculously good. Like, how can you pass that up? Seriously, I mean, really, just you can't. I've had my hands on the HTC Vive. I've played a number of titles on there, and I have to say that once you get into it and once you really kind of immerse yourself in a VR game, it is so much fun, the things that you can do, being able to interact and the visceral feeling you get of having of being there is really, really cool. Unfortunately, the report that I have is Project Scorpio, so we don't really know a lot about how that performs in terms of competition for the PlayStation 4 Pro, for 4K content as well, and sales. So we don't have any statistics on sales revenue on consoles at this stage. Hopefully in the new year we'll get a little bit of statistics on those, but we're a little bit behind. His warm sun was the inspiration for Gimli? I thought Gimli was the inspiration for Gimli. You are Batman! Yes, and I've watched a little bit about it, and it does look fun. They've got to get over the fundamental problems of VR, like the fact that you have to stand in one place and you pretty much just have a console in front of you to interact with, and movement is a little bit janky, because there is no way to easily move around in a VR environment, which is why I really was looking forward to potential flight simulator titles or racing sim titles, games where you can be seated and you can have your controls in front of you with the VR headset on, and you can feel like you're really there. Those were things that I was really hoping to see come out on VR titles. However, nobody has made that leap as yet. We're still more or less looking at tech demos and reskins of tech demos. Batman, don't get me wrong, the VR looks awesome for it. However, it kind of is just a straight kind of reskin of the interactive console experience that you get from other VR titles, with, of course, the Batman, which does lend its story title to it, which is good. It is good. Alrighty, Star Wars Battlefront on PSVR did that. I have not seen any content from the Star Wars Battlefront VR. Yeah, something that I have to kind of jump into next year. I have not been a massive advocate for VR. It has not been really my avenue, and I haven't done a massive amount with it. But honestly, it is still in its fledgling stage. It is still so new to the market that, you know, anything could happen with it. It could become something amazing. You never know with these sorts of things. It just takes, you know, that one company to hit the jackpot and find the right groove in that market for everyone else to jump on the bandwagon and start pumping out content. So we will see in the new year how VR stacks up, but as of revenue status, I don't really have a lot for you because it came out so late this year and there hasn't been a lot about it in terms of content. Looking at premium content though, our top 5: Overwatch, CSGO, Guild Wars 2, Minecraft, and of course Fallout 4. These are your top premium PC games of 2016 in terms of revenue. Overwatch looking at just over $500 million in revenue, and it hasn't been out that long. CSGO being the staple that it is, 250 million in revenue from January to November, and coming in behind that you got Guild Wars 2, Minecraft, Fallout 4, all falling below the 100 million mark. So, you know, in terms of premium content games, these are games that you pay to play or purchase to play, as opposed to free to play games like League of Legends and Dota 2 and other MOBA titles. These have fallen a lot lower down on the revenue mark. However, I don't know that this actually takes into account the initial purchase price of these products, or whether it takes in their revenue over the term of their release time, or over this year, and which is talking about, you know, in-game purchases. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but unfortunately statistics aren't there to show us whether or not it includes the purchase price. If it doesn't include the purchase price, would make a lot of sense at their price point at the moment for their revenue. If it does, it seems really quite low for them. Overwatch being one of the biggest games of the year, coming in with millions of copies sold, and that was a full-blown price title at release, so you can imagine that probably generated a lot initially, as well as the ongoing. But you know, that may be counting the initial purchase price. We don't know. In the console market, so that was PC. In the console, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, FIFA 16, Grand Theft Auto 5, Tom Clancy's The Division, and Destiny coming in 5th for the year to date. Call of Duty actually just eking out Overwatch on the PC at $591 million, whereas Overwatch only managed $585 million, just eking them out on the console there. The rest of the titles easily blowing away PC this year at $387 million for FIFA, $378 on Grand Theft Auto, $261 on The Division, and $214 million on Destiny throughout this year. So console games definitely coming up there and doing better in terms of premium titles compared to PC this year, even though the console market has not been nearly as big. Outlast 2 is definitely eagerly awaited. Kia ora, DJ, how's it going to you, my friend? I'm not going to go into too much more of this tonight because we have precious little time and I want to get into playing some Final Fantasy 15, which we didn't do last night. But you know, there are some very interesting things happening in terms of esports. You've got a lot of companies outside of the esports scene buying into esports at the moment. So that is kind of a huge thing for 2016, where where corporate companies and especially other sports entities, real-world sports entities, are buying into esports at the moment, making it look like, you know, 2017 is probably going to be a pretty big year again for esports. We don't have too much more really to go into. Yeah, I don't know. YouTube. Let's just go into YouTube very quickly, because there is a revenue stat for video gaming content. So Twitch and YouTube being kind of new to the scene, doing its live and its YouTube Red pulling in quite a lot of revenue this year, where they have managed to pull in, overall YouTube has pulled in $1.6 billion in revenue, but get this, Twitch at $1.9 billion tops the charts in video content. So Twitch is being the favorite platform at this stage, probably in part, of course, due to League of Legends and live streaming esports tournaments. Twitch have a very good relationship with Riot at this stage, hosting a lot of those pro tournaments, which is drawing in anywhere up to, I think the last game I watched was around 230,000 viewers in a single stream, which freaking ridiculous, man. Absolutely insane, but definitely just topping the charts there, probably mostly in thanks to that esport environment. There is yes, there is of course the Twitch Prime subscription, Amazon picking up Twitch earlier in the year, last year, I can't even remember when they picked it up. It must have been the end of last year by now. Time flies, you know. Bringing in the Twitch Prime, which is kind of in part with Amazon Prime as well, which has seen a lot of success this year. Announced earlier this year at TwitchCon, of course, an expansion of the Amazon Prime. So anyone with an Amazon Prime gets a free subscription to Twitch Prime, which probably pushed a lot of people over onto Twitch as well. But get this as well, over the course of this year, between YouTube and Twitch, ad revenue across those giant behemoth content providers, $2.4 billion in ad revenue. You can understand why Twitch has now introduced unskippable ads, where before you could use ad blocker in order to get around them. They're now integrating ads into streams so that you can't necessarily get around them without maybe a Twitch Prime account. But you can understand why they want to do that, ad revenue being a major spinner for profits on Twitch, both Twitch and YouTube. Hey guys, sorry about that. I had to cut the stream off really quickly last night, but I will be back again with some more news tonight, live on Twitch, 8 p.m. Like, follow, subscribe if you are on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, hit that follow button, and come join us tonight for another stream.